Alright, for memorizing scripture, there are two methods that I would suggest using. One is better for being able to quickly recall the chapters, because you do have to recall them every once in a while. After you're used to them, it's good to recall them at least once every 2 months, or else they start to fade in your memory. The other is really good for when you first memorize the chapters, for gaining a quick, I guess what you would call bookmarking, being able to remember where everything is in the chapter, and being able to recall later little sections from the chapter by just scrolling through and seeing what you want, rather than having to go through the whole sequence to get to what you're looking for. The first method is listening to. I don't recommend for this method actually reading from the text. I recommend actually listening to a CD. It's better to do it while you're driving, because when you're driving and you're seeing the different places along your route, it's a natural bookmarking technique, I'll say. You tend to remember where you were when you memorized a certain section of the passage, and it's easy to remember the sequence that way. And what you would do, or what I do when I memorize this way, is I'll play the chapter on the CD, and I'll play a little bit, and I'll pause it, and I'll try to repeat everything I heard, and then I'll rewind it and see if it's correct, and that's called a control recall. And then I'll do the next part, and I'll try to get it right. After a few tries, I'll get it right, and I'll move on to the next little section, and then I'll try to do it all together. And in a 20-minute drive, typically I'll be able to memorize a 1 minute long psalm like that. And memorizing epistles, especially Paul's epistles, is really easy that way, because Paul's sentences are run-on sentences, and one part of the sentence naturally leads to the next part, and it's easy to remember where the sentence and where his train of thought is going, because he has these long run-on sentences. But with something like the Psalms, typically, or Proverbs, it's typically small statements that may or may not be joined by a continual thought sequence. And so a good method to use for those is using visual images in your mind. And the way that you would do that is, there's something called an image sense, and what you would do is you would take a particular phrase and come up with an image to represent that phrase. It's better to do it in a really organized manner, and what I recommend, I'll tell you what I would do for a psalm. Psalm 17, well, I'll do Psalm 16 because 17 is more involved, but Psalm 16 is Psalm 16. It starts out a miktam of David, and so for miktam I've got a picture of Mickey Mouse, a particular picture of Steamboat Willie in my mind, miktam. And I divide up the sections of the song. I say the first section, for the image that I have for it is a jar of preserves, because it starts out preserve me, and so I picture a jar of preserves on Mickey Mouse's head, and I link the images together, and I make sure that the point of connection is a strong connection, because if you have a strong connection, then it'll make for easier recall. And so that method of linking them together like that is called the chain technique, or the chain method. And for the second section, it's I have Casper the Friendly Ghost, because it starts out like, "Oh my soul," and so is Casper the Friendly Ghost, and it's connected to the jar of preserves. And on Casper the Friendly Ghost's head is a sad face, because the fourth section starts out with their sorrows shall be increased. So it's a sad face. And on top of the sad face, there's a sad face sticker, and the top of it is stuck to the bottom of a cup. And because it's, "Oh Lord, you are the portion of my cup and my inheritance." That starts out the next section. And on top of the cup is a statue of God sitting on his throne with a cornucopia, because I have to have an image of God, of course. I'm not engraving images of God. I'm just thinking of an image. But a cornucopia represents blessing, the way I do my image sense. So I will bless the Lord who has given me counsel, is how that section starts out. And so, I have an image of "I will bless the Lord." And the image that is connected to that one, and you might notice that this is sort of looking like a totem pole almost, and that's kind of the idea of a totem pole, is to tell a story, and it's basically just a sequence of images connected together. But the image that I have connected to the "I will bless the Lord" image is the image of a heart with a smiling heart, and it's because that section starts out saying, "Therefore my heart is glad and my glory rejoices." And that's the way that I connect the sections of the psalm together. And then I go in and I fill in the I fill in the pictures in that chain with smaller pictures on this different sections of, and I don't know how this is looking on the actual video, but what you want to do is you want to go top to bottom and left to right, the way you would read, top to bottom, left to right, and that way you can keep an organized system of where your inner eye is going to go when you're recalling these image sequences. And basically what you would do is you would attach images that represent the smaller parts of the sections to the different image parts of the picture that represents the section itself. And so on Casper's head, it might have an image to represent the next line, and then on his shoulder it might have an image to represent the next line. Personally, I didn't fill in the rest of it on this particular psalm because I had memorized it through repetition before, but if I come up with images to represent the different sections and link them together, it gives me a decent overview of the chapter for easy reference.